Good evening, everyone. This is Shubham Khanna from Time, and I'll be talking about XLRI today. Now, the purpose of the session is for you to understand what kind of a college is XLRI, and then what kind of profiles do you expect in XLRI. We'll be covering batch profile, placements, cutoffs, the exam strategy, and then, of course, we'll talk about the selection process of XLRI as well. But before all of that, let's first talk about why XLRI is one of India's top MBA institutes. First of all, it is the oldest business school in India, established in 1949. And it started with its HR program then. The idea was to train students, or in fact, to train employees in the HR domain and the trade union domain. Uh, it was also to establish a legacy of responsible, socially responsible managers. And therefore, it is one of the premier non-IIM MBA brands in India. We mostly talk about IIMs being the top MBA colleges in India, but XLRI is one of those few colleges that have matched the quality of IIM. In fact, in some cases, even better than an IIM. It is definitely it provides one of the best HR programs, not just in India, but across Asia as well, and has strong reputation for consistently providing high placements. So it is one of the premier tier one business schools in India. As I mentioned, it was founded in Jamshedpur in 1949. Now it has its second branch opened in Jhajjar, Haryana, and it's also doing very well for a college that has only seen 5 years. Uh, the core differentiator from any other business school, and being an alumni of XLRI, I can talk about this in probably a little more detail, is that its focus on ethical leadership. So it is not just creating managers, it is not just creating founders or business leaders, it is creating a chain of leadership, which is not just about integrity, not just about business acumen, not just about excellence, but it is basically a combination of all of these things. And that in Excel terms, we call it ethical leadership. And that is where the focus is. Uh, you see, even when you get into the nuances of this, XLRI was the first business school to introduce business ethics as a core subject. And this was somewhere in 1960s, long before it became a global trend. It is also one of the first institutes to come up with sustainability management as a core subject for business managers. And so you see, therefore, the idea has always been forward looking, has always been about creating a balance between business and ethics. Now, let's get into the programs that are offered by XLRI. Their two flagship programs are the PGDM Business Management and the PGDM HR Management. And we will talk about these courses at length. Some of the other courses that are gaining a lot of popularity and students from these programs are also doing well is the Executive MBA program, which is more commonly known as the GMP program, and the fellowship program, which is the PhD. So these are major programs. XLR also offers a lot of online MBA programs nowadays, but these, you can say, are the ones that you should look forward to. Now, BM versus HRM. And I think I get this question most commonly from students targeting XLRI, that which one is right for them? What suits them? Now, in simple terms, if I had to explain, business management encapsulates everything that is on the business side of any organization. And you can start with strategizing, product, marketing, sales, finances, everything. Whereas human resource management, as the name itself suggests, is on the resource management side of an organization, where you can talk about HR consulting, talent strategy, remunerations, grievance redressal, employee welfare, uh, PR activities, etc. Right? So all of these things comes under the HRM domain as such. And therefore, you need to look at what kind of skill sets you have, what kind of an interest you have when you want or when you say that you want to enter into a corporate world or a business world. On which side of the organization do you see yourself operating? And that should, really decide which one is right for you, right? You have to understand that if you get into the BM program, then you do not have the option to, take up HR as your specialization and vice versa. For HRM students, you can't take BM or let's say finance, marketing, or consulting or strategy as a specialization. However, HR consulting itself is, something which is very a dominant domain in terms of hiring at XLRI, the HR program. And therefore, people who want to get into consulting uh, do not really have to restrict themselves to the business management program. You can very well get into the HRM program, get into HR consulting or purely consulting for that matter. Now, there are pure consulting roles that come up for students at HRM program as well. Right? So if your profile suits those roles, the company gives you a shortlist. Right? For all the other roles, you will have to bifurcate them between BM and HRM. Now, if you see the batch size at XLRI Jamshedpur campus, they've recently increased the number of intake in the BM program, which earlier was 180 and now has become 240. HRM remains the same 180, and therefore the total batch is 420. Now, I see this as a relatively smaller batch size if you compare it to some of the other top IIMs, where the batch size have even gone up to 1,000 for that matter, right? And from that point of view, I see this smaller batch size, which translates to better individual attention, higher placement opportunities. Uh, I also see that this batch size also helps in better peer-to-peer learning as well. Uh, so it's not too low for that learning to be not holistic, and it is not very high for it to, let's say, negatively impact placement opportunities. It is kind of uh, right at the threshold, I would say. So this is a very good plus point, I would say, for XLRI, where the batch size translates really into better placement opportunities. Now, a lot of you wanted to understand what kind of profiles do students come in with. Let's start with understanding the WorkX profile. And about 25% of the batch you see are freshers, whereas 50% of the batch will have WorkX of around 1 year to 3 years. More than 3 years is relatively less. You can take it that number to be approximately again 20-25%. But you see, while work experience is preferred and there is certain weightage given to your profile, and work experience is a big part of it, freshers are definitely welcome at this college. In fact, if you see the whole of BM and HRM program altogether, you will see more than 100, students uh, in total who are freshers, right? So they're definitely welcome at the college, and they secure admissions regularly, provided you do well in uh, you know, uh, the other processes, that is the XAT exam and the interview process. Academic diversity. At Excel, in the past few years, again, we've seen a change in trend. Earlier, the BM program was mostly dominated by engineers. We had a fair share of students from commerce and economics background. But other than that, not a lot of diversity academic wise in the BM program. HRM, on the other hand, used to be far more diverse. Today, we see that gap reducing, and the BM and the HRM program both can see a lot of academic diversity. Yes, a majority part in the BM program is still dominated by engineers and commerce economics, students from a commerce and economics background. But now we also see students getting into the BM program who had a background in arts, in law, even doctors for that matter. So a lot of academic diversity now in the BM program as well. HRM has, always boasts more of academic diversity than the BM program. Diversity also translates into gender diversity at Excel. And we see to promote gender diversity, the cutoffs for men and women candidates are a little different. Uh, and therefore we see about 50%, even in fact more than 50% of the batch being female for the HRM cohort, whereas for the BM cohort we see about 35-40% of the batch are females. So you see there is again in totality there is fair share for both men and women candidates. There is no specific I would say inclination towards a particular gender, but it gives equal opportunities to both candidates. I think it also matches with the industry requirements at the moment, right? Now, if you see the placement analysis at XLRI, their average salaries are about 31 lakhs per annum, as you can see. And this is from their 2024 placement report, very credible report since they get it audited as well. The highest salary is about 75 lakhs per annum, but really that is not what you should focus on. Let's focus on the average and the median salaries, which is about 31 and 29 LPA. The highest salaries can vary and go up and down every year, but what you see consistency in is their average and median salaries. In the past few years we've seen that going up a notch every year, and therefore, as I said, it is very much at par with some of the top MBA colleges, Blackie colleges, right? These are just a list of some recruiters at Excel. I specifically wanted to mention these because these are legacy recruiters. They hire in huge numbers. For example, Accenture Strategy hires more than 50 candidates from the college. Similarly, BCG, one of the dream companies for most of new candidates aspiring to become business managers, they also hire in upwards of 20 candidates every year. So you see, there is a great scope for people who want to become consultants, get into operations for that matter, and of course, HR, general management. These are some of the roles that if you're targeting one of these roles, you're definitely suited for XLRI. I would also like to mention one area where you should avoid XLRI if you are, interested into this one area, and which is finance. Why am I saying this is because not because finance placements are at XLRI is bad or something, but again, I'm comparing it to some of the top MBA colleges, and I see I.M.E, ABC, or SP Gen doing far better. In fact, FMS as well doing far better in terms of placements in finance companies as compared to Excel. But once you move past that, I think again XLRI is one of the preferred campus for that as well, right? Now, as I said, these are some of the top roles that students are able to get at XLRI. Uh, Summer internship placements, yes, another question that I get from candidates is what kind of stipend do we expect in summer internships? And I tell them that, it rarely matters the kind of stipend. It just gives a validation that, your company is good enough. But really, what you should be looking at is the kind of experience because that helps you finally decide what kind of role you want to get into, right? But since we are at this question, you can see the average stipend at Excel is about 1.6 lakhs per month. Again, dominant roles in consulting and product management. Now, the selection process. Very briefly, let's go through the selection process. Uh, we first start with the XAT exam. right? And I'll talk about that exam in a little detail. Based on your that score, you're shortlisted for a GWPI process, which is basically a three-step process. It includes a GD, a VAT, and a PI. Now, for that purpose, you are also required to fill up an application form of XLRI where you've been asked a few SOP questions. Of course, once you fill that up, once you submit that, it becomes a part of your interview process. Now, what will happen during an interview? You will first get a topic to write an essay on. On the same topic, you will be given a few minutes to discuss within a group. So it's around 10, 12 minutes, a group discussion. And then there is an interview that you go through. So based on all of the three processes, you're scored in total. Now, what happens for the final merit list preparation? There's a certain weightage given to the XAT exam, certain weightage to your entire interview GWPI process, and then some weightage to your profile. Now, what is this weightage is not an open information. That's something that XLRI has never given out. But uh, take it with a lot of credibility over here that most of your weightage is given to your XAT and the interview exam, something which is part of a controllable process, so to say, for you now. The other things in your profile, you can't really control much of that, but about 80, in fact, more than 80% weightage is given to XAT and the interview preparation is what we feel. And therefore, the final merit list will come out, and accordingly, you can decide to choose this college. Now, as I said, the evaluation criteria is your XAT score, interview performance profile, and of course, communication skills, which again is tested in the interview as well, right? Now, let's talk about the cutoffs. Now, and we are talking in terms of percentiles over here. So if we see for business management programs, for engineers, the cutoff is starts at around 96 percentile and goes up to 99. Of course, the higher you get, the better your chances of converting the college and not. Now, these are cutoffs for just your interview calls. If you get a higher percentile, you have a better chance of converting these colleges, right? Here also, there is a difference for men and women candidates, about a difference of one percentile. So for men, let's say it's 95 percentile, sorry, 96 percentile, and for women candidates, it will be around 95 percentile. That is the only difference, right? For non-engineers, this cutoff is a little lesser, from 93 to 97. HRM program traditionally has a cutoff which is a little lower than the BM program. As you can see, for engineers, it is 93 to 96 percentile, whereas for non-engineers, it is 90 to 95 percentile. Now, understand that these are cutoffs to get an interview call, which does not guarantee a place at XLRI. So when I say that the higher you get, the better chances you have at converting this college, is because you have to understand that, let's say, if you get a 98 percentile, 2% of these 1 lakh students, that is about 2,000 students, have a better percentile than you. And for business management program, there are only 240 seats. So you can understand, if even if you get a call, there's probably 2,000 candidates ahead of you who've also gotten a call and will also be competing for the same 240 seats. And therefore, to overtake those 2,000 candidates, your interview has to be absolutely flawless. So understand, at 96 percentile, your chances decreases even further, right? So you have to make sure that you just don't go by these cutoffs, but you aim at the higher side of these percentiles so that you have better chance of conversion. Now, what is this XAT exam? First of all, XLRI does not accept CAT. It accepts its own exam, which is the Xavier Aptitude Test, XAT. For both the flagship programs, the BM and the HRM program, you will have to give XAT. For GMP program, you can appear for ZAT as well as GMAT. It accepts both the exams. So there you have a choice. But for the flagship programs, BM and HRM, and I'll be talking a little more detail about that. Uh, the exam required is the ZAT exam. There are 4 sections to it. The first part consists of the first 3 sections, that is the verbal ability, logical reasoning, the decision making section, which is absolutely unique to ZAT, and the quantitative ability and DI section. The second part includes the general knowledge or the general awareness section, which includes a mix of general awareness as well as current affairs. Now, what I really want to talk about in detail is the decision-making section, but I'll quickly, talk about the other 2 sections first. The verbal ability section includes, or in fact, is very similar to the CATS VRC section, but has again a few different elements to it. The verbal ability section here includes your standard para summary, paraphrasing questions, uh, but also sometimes has questions on grammar. Uh, Expect 2 or 3 questions on grammar every year in this section. Sometimes you can also expect questions related to vocabulary. Uh, Questions like antonyms, synonyms has also been seen in that in the past few years. Uh, Although in the last couple of years, we haven't seen antonyms, synonyms type questions, but we've seen a new type of question which is based on a picture perception question. So these are different types of questions that you can see in verbal ability apart from your standard RC questions, right? Another type of question that you see in the VLR section is the critical reasoning. So here, logical reasoning really comes down to critical reasoning, which is also passage based. You get a passage, but here the questions, although looks like very similar to the ZAT RC questions, but are purely critical reasoning questions, which are based on finding assumptions or conclusions or the main idea of the passage, or strengthening or weakening the idea of the passage, those kind of questions, right? When you come to QADI section, which has about 28 questions in total, you will see around 10 to 12 questions from DI and purely DI sets, which includes graphs and tables, etc. The other 18 questions are your quantitative ability sections, where again you will see a lot of weightage being given to arithmetic and algebra. A good amount of questions comes from geometry as well. Uh, in the past few years, again, we've seen very less number of questions from numbers and modern maths. But again, there's a fair mix of all types of questions. So again, selective study is not something which is recommended over here, right? Now, talking about the decision-making section, that is the X factor of ZAT. In fact, it is the key differentiator uh, section of that. And if you do not do well in decision making, you basically do not clear the cutoff for the section and do not get a call, irrespective of how high you've scored in all the other sections, right? So therefore, it becomes really important that you give enough importance to this particular section. Now, a lot of people say that this section is about common sense, but really it is not, uh, because you can't be biased over here based on your experiences. You have to think like an uh, ideal candidate for a managerial position. But not just managerial thinking is required. You also need to balance it with business ethics. And therefore, that is what leads to leadership judgment, where you can balance managerial thinking and ethics both. And this is exactly what XLRI is trying to test in this section. Uh, it tests who you are as a leader and not just how you calculate things or how you can reason out things, not just that much. Okay. And therefore, the college also is seen as someone who prepares uh, students for leadership roles. Uh, and that is exactly why recruiters also prefer recruiting from XLRI. They believe that the candidates are trained for leadership. They, of course, have good communication skills. There's a there's a keen focus on business ethics. And of course, there's a very strong alumni network as it is the oldest business school, right? So it definitely has one of the oldest alumni network or the largest alumni network as well, right? Now, who should be targeting Excel? In essence, everyone who's trying to get into a good tier one MBA college, XLRI becomes a very good option for you. But specifically, people who are, aspirants of consulting roles or HR roles, gen man roles, people who want to get into product management, for you, Excel becomes a very ideal place, something that should be, if not at the top two options for you, right? Uh, for people other than these roles, XLRI again becomes definitely one of the top choices, and therefore it should again land up in your top five colleges. Uh, Again, people who want to end up at leadership positions in their career, XLRI becomes a preferred college again because uh, it is seen as one of those colleges who prepare, responsible leaders, not just business managers, right? So I think in essence, everyone who's uh, targeting MBA colleges, tier one MBA colleges, XLRI becomes a natural choice for you guys. Okay. Now, this is something which has been a debate for far too long. And therefore, I just wanted to touch upon on this, the ROI analysis. Now, in simple terms, if I have to explain this, you invest around 30 lakhs for a program at XLRI, and you are essentially, uh, even if I take the average salary for a discussion purpose, you get about 31 lakhs as the average salary. So you see the ROI here is very fruitful. If I have to talk about the break even or the full ROI, you achieve it in less than 2 years. The amount of money that you invest, you can easily get that money back in less than 2 years, right? Uh, Now compare this to a college like FMS where the fee is far, far low and the average salaries are again comparable. uh, yes, compared to such colleges, FMS or an IIT, the ROI is lesser. But if you compare it to some of the top IIMs, the ROI is very, very similar, right? So in terms of ROI, also, this is one of the colleges that you can prefer purely based on the fact that it guarantees you basically a high place. It guarantees you to start your career at a position. It gives you a launch pad from where you can, take off for your career. So definitely a good ROI, and again, should not be worried about whether you will be able to break even quickly or not, right? Final takeaways. So, XLRI, of course, is a top tier institute comparable to some of the best IIMs, offers great placements, very high ROI as well, and it focuses heavily on leadership development and ethics. That is what the crux of the college is, right? Even if you see their motto, it says for the greater good, which basically means that they're not just preparing business managers, but again, they are creating a balance between integrity and excellence, right? Uh, so therefore, uh, it really is about creating socially responsible leaders. The strategy is very simple. That, of course, is your key exam. You prepare strongly for that. You make sure that you uh, have a structure for your preparation. Make sure that you follow that structure, be disciplined in your preparation, plan your preparation properly, go for uh, good mock series for that, go for good sessions where you understand the crux of decision making, and then strongly prepare for the XAT exam, right? Post which, start with your interview preparation, where again your focus has to be divided between essay writing, group discussion and interview preparation. And with this, you create a very strong chance for you to get into XLRI, right? If there are any questions, I'll take away those questions quickly. If there are any questions, you can post that on the live chat. Otherwise, I think that is what I wanted to explain about XLRI. I believe you will have a far better understanding of what kind of a college XLRI is and what you should be expecting from this college, what needs to be done to get into a college with uh, such great rankings and such great placements, right? All right. If there are no questions, that is it from my side.